Hi, I'm Jennifer,
Hi, I'm Ryan.
and this is for Unit 56 and Task 1. And we'll be discussing different documentaries throughout time.
So I will start. One of my chosen documentaries that I picked was Night Mail, which was released in 1936.
Right, so what's the theme of this documentary?
I'd say it's a theme of loneliness and companionship throughout the whole documentary, even though it's primarily just about how they deliver mail. Night Mail is pretty much about how a mail company delivers mail, packages it, sends it out on a train. But it's deeper down. It's a lot more than that.
Right, so considering the fact that this documentary was made in the 1930s, where did we get this budget from?
Well, it only had a small budget. Actually, it was only a small budget of £2,000.
Oh, yeah, okay.
And that budget was actually only from the mail company themselves. It wasn't like an external budget. The mail company themselves used that.
Okay. Was it made by Royal Mail? Like, was it made for Royal Mail, or was it called something different back then? Was it not Royal Mail, or is it the General Post Office?
It was called General Post Office at
Right,
the time.
okay.
GPO.
Okay. The thing is, though, after watching it, I thought it was really interesting. Like, even though it was filmed in black and white,
True.
obviously, for the time that it was filmed, in the 1930s, black and white was generally used. But I really enjoyed it. Like, I liked the quirky bits when the guys were being filmed on the actual train and showing the new guy of what to do.
Well, actually, the actual footage within the documentary, like, it is more of a observatory documentary.
Yeah.
Because we're just observing
Yeah.
the process. But there are some parts of it that are actually staged, which is
Really?
the commentary.
Oh!
So the commentary, like the voiceovers that you hear,
Yeah.
some of them are staged.
Right, okay, see, I never knew
Or
that.
some of the parts of the camera.
Like, I didn't realise. But I thought that documentary, Night Mail, was a really good watch.
You could also say, like, the time it came out, the visual quality
I thought that was really good.
and the shots.
Yeah. Like how they got some certain shots. If that was going to be made now, we'd probably be looking at drone technology. But watching it then, it's like I'm trying to look at how would they have done that. And then
Well-
it gets your mind thinking.
Well, something you might have not known is the parts on the train, the inside of the train.
Yeah.
It was a set. It wasn't actually filmed in like a moving train. It was like a train cartridge just in a set.
Are you joking, Ryan?
No,
I thought it was a real train.
no, they got a train and then just filmed like in a set. There was a GPO like movie set that they made, and they rocked the train back and forth
Really?
to emulate
To
the train
make the seemingly moving train delivering mail, it was a set. You know what though? That's really clever, I think. Especially if they couldn't create it on a moving train.
Yeah.
But I can imagine that though, like with technology those days, how would they make it a stable camera without
Yeah.
rocking it everywhere? So that makes so much sense now. Mind blown.
That was just Night Train was actually one part of a whole mini series of DVDs that they made that was
Right.
actually recently released. Well, not recently, but was released 10 years ago.
Okay.
By GPO to help promote themselves. So one small part of that was the Night Mail.
I still think that's amazing that they recreated the train on a set.
Yeah.
I think that's fantastic. That means that someone really thought about how they were going to do that. So it's definitely a good way to promote GPO in the 1930s.
And definitely captures the spirit of old Britain.
Definitely. Right, let's move on to the next documentary. The Hard Watch, I like to call it.
Yes, indeed. The Cool School, released in 2008.
Which I didn't realise. Like, I know you said it was 2008, but all the footage they've shown within the documentary,
Yes.
it's obviously not based in 2008 because it's all way back when.
So, The Cool School was as you say, a
Hard watch.
Hard watch. And it's about the discovery of like new ages of art within the 1950s to 60s and how it changed America
Right. So what impact did the movement have then on artists of this time?
Well, obviously it shows that the city began to embrace a more colourful and like abstract environment, and this movement greatly
Yeah.
helped artists at the time, because obviously with artists it would have been everything would have been about art, so
Yeah.
loads of artists would have profited.
See, now I've been to LA and I understand that because different parts are covered in art. So I'm guessing this is when it started. And it's definitely good to like see all these different things that have been created then and how they are perceived now. But when I say now, I'm talking 2008.
Yeah. Throughout the film, it's like there's a contrast in the colour. Some
Yeah.
parts are in like colour, and then there's other parts which are the interviews, which are purposely put in black and white.
So why's that?
Well, I believe it's to give a sense of like nostalgia for like
Right.
back then at the time.
No, that makes sense.
So the people they're interviewing were like obviously relevant at the time.
Yeah.
So it puts it in black and white to try and like reminisce that time.
So yeah, now that I call that the Wizard of Oz effect because you're going from black and white into colour.
Yeah.
So, like Wizard of Oz way back when, 1937, possibly.
True.
And they start in black and white to be nostalgic, and then they go into colour when she goes into Oz, and that's meant to be like futuristic. So I understand why that concept was used then, but still
Yeah.
a hard watch.
Yeah. You do have to have a love for art to properly appreciate this film that I discovered. Or if you're just
I feel like you did it to punish
if
me,
you're
really.
a natural art connoisseur like
Shall we say?
some people, then you'll love it because I'm sure you can relate with all your
Artistic,
£1,000,000 of
yeah.
paintings all over your mansion.
Yeah. The only thing that drew me into it was the fact that Jeff Bridges does the
Voiceover,
narrative
yeah.
voiceover. And for me, that was why I watched it.
It might be
'cause-
like the one thing that keeps people watching.
Yes, for me, that was that. The fact that Jeff Bridges was the voiceover. And I'm thinking that Jeff Bridges must have an interest in art for him to be able to do something like that.
True.
For him to talk about art the way he does and to be a voiceover for the cool school. He must have a genuine interest.
Overall, I'd just say it gives a sense of discovery at the time for LA, and it gives a sense of discovery to the viewer who's watching,
Yeah.
because you're seeing the transition of this new age of art.
Okay. Should we move on?
We shall.
All right, so I chose two documentaries that could be seen as contemporary, but kind of about the same thing. So the first one that I'm going to talk about is Truth Behind the Interview. And that was about the Martin Bashir 1995 interview that he did with Diana. Now, thing is, it was so controversial back then in 1995 that BBC felt they had to make a new documentary about it
Yes.
because obviously we didn't know all the ins and outs that happened to make that documentary, and now we do. And then they made a second documentary which you opened my eyes to,
I did.
which was The Truth Behind the Scandal. The scandal being the 1995 interview. So obviously as a documentary it's an interview style
Yes.
because you've got Martin Bashir and then you've got Princess Diana in a room, 2 chairs, nothing else, and a camera.
So I'll start off with a very
Controversial.
controversial question.
Yeah.
Would you say that if Diana had not done the interview, would she still be alive to this day?
I reckon so. In my own opinion, and we're all entitled to our own opinions, I really do feel that if she didn't say those things that she did in 1995, I think she definitely would still be alive. Because it was only 2 years later. So she did the interview in April.
Yeah.
And in August of 1997, she was killed in the tunnel in Paris. And I just feel that if she didn't divulge all those personal bits, that eventually, basically killed her.
I mean, It's like when Martin Bashir asked, "Do you think you're going to become queen?"
Yeah.
And she just
Said,
chuckles and goes,
no.
"No."
It's like she foresaw it.
Why would you say the interview at the time was so, like, controversial?
Because obviously she was having mental health issues at the time. If you're watching the documentary,
You can tell.
you can see, like, she's thinking people are watching her and following her and wanting to kill her, and it's really affecting her mental health. And what we find out in the documentary about the interview is that Martin Bashir set up some of those things just to bring in the audience, and for him to do that is so out of order. I mean, you're playing someone's life there, and look what happened.
Yeah. It's not on.
No, it's not. So hence why they brought out the scandal.
Well, before we go into it, I will ask just
Okay.
from a first off question, with the new evidence that has come out, that we'll get into it, would you say that the original interview, people will see it differently now?
Yeah, 100% yes. Because you've got all this information that's come to light. All this knowledge.
So you'll see it in, like, a different light.
You'll watch it and go, oh my God, no way.
Yeah.
Mind blown. Because I did. And if I think that, then I'm thinking most other people would as well. And it's definitely it's worlds away.
Yeah.
So 1995 compared to 2020, and then again a month later
I mean,
for another documentary.
You could even compare it to, I mean, at the time, obviously, like, it's someone coming out with truths supposedly about the royal family, and we just recently had another...
Yeah, the Prince Andrew scandal.
Yeah.
And that interview that he did was an absolute train wreck.
Yeah.
All set up, and you can tell that the way he's twisted it to be in support of him, and he won't even help the place.
Oh, and the Meghan Markle thing.
Oh yeah, exactly. The Oprah interview with Meghan Markle and Harry. Now, it turns out that Meghan Markle lied quite a few times in there.
Supposedly. We don't know.
Supposedly. But again...
You can still say the same about this Diana interview.
Exactly. It's all very out there.
Yeah.
And obviously, like, as British people, we should love the royal family. But if it's full of scandal, we obviously want to know about it as well. But everyone wants to try and keep it hush-hush.
I mean, the fact that the royal family themselves, I imagine it's not very nice for them.
No.
Obviously, yes, they're the royal family, but all in all, they're a family.
Exactly.
So.
But never mind.
Let's talk about the truth behind the interview.
Right, okay.
Now, I will openly admit on camera, I did watch a slightly different version to your...
Which I didn't realise.
To your chosen documentary.
Yeah.
Which was called Diana Behind the Scandal.
Yeah.
And
which I didn't realise was out. I didn't realise that was a thing.
Yeah.
Until you said.
It was released only a month between the two on Channel 4.
Right.
So Truth Behind the Interview came out in October, and Behind the Scandal came out in November. Yeah. November.
So we find out about Martin Bashir setting up like a bank statement. But so the guy that was modifying the bank statement, shall we say, thought he was just doing it for a prop. What he didn't realise was that Martin was going to use it and present it as evidence, shall we say. And the way he's perceived it as being paid off, really, it's just like all these little things that Martin's been doing come alight in behind the interview. And it's obviously been done by Channel 4 to show the world what actually the BBC have done. The truth behind the interview is more like a formal a formal documentary made by Channel 4
Mm.
talking about BBC in 1995. For me, it's a bit like Montague versus Capulet.
Yes.
You've got BBC on one side and Channel 4 on the other. Now, obviously, they're different broadcasting platforms. So, for them to have such a big topic to work with that BBC basically butchered with Martin Bashir doing the butchering, Channel 4 wanted to expose that, which again, Montague versus Capulet, they both hate each other. And that's what we see here. But it's got evidence to back it up. The evidence is brought to light from what happened in 1995. There's more interviewees because obviously in 1995 it was just Diana being interviewed.
Yes.
It was basically just about her. But the truth behind the interview brings more people into light. More people that were in Diana's life at the time. Like you've got, as we have discussed before, Patrick.
Yeah.
Now, Patrick is obviously Diana's formal personal secretary. And he spent so much time with Diana that he's seen her most. Well, apart from Charles. And then we see Andrew Morton. Now, Andrew is the writer of Diana's biography.
Yes.
So he, again, had knowledge about her secrets that she wanted to share with the world.
As I said, it's a lot more about Diana's life leading up to the interview
Yeah.
prior. So we get to see what was happening behind the scenes leading up to it. Whereas the scandal, it's just we're talking
Shocking.
about just starts from the interview. It
Yeah.
doesn't start from prior.
And it is shocking.
It is indeed. So, as I was saying, behind the scandal, focus primarily more on the newer evidence that has surfaced, whereas behind the interview is like prior stuff leading up to it.
And I can't believe how much stuff they found in a month.
Yes.
They must have been concentrating on that a lot to be able to find all of that new stuff that they could use.
And behind the scandal, it's a lot more biased about Martin Bashir and
Yes.
the BBC. Like, you watched a bit and you were just like, wow!
Well, no, you told me about it and I thought, well, I need to watch it, obviously. But I wanted you to tell me bits
Yes.
so I could get, like, my first reaction to what you're going to tell me. So I only watched half of it, but there was a lot of me covering my mouth going, oh, my God. And it's just definitely scandal, hence why it's behind the scandal.
So, talking about stuff that might shock you.
Oh, I'm very excited.
So I noticed that behind the interview, compared to the scandal,
Yeah.
in behind the interview, it speaks more about Prince Charles as well, which the scandal doesn't even mention.
Right, okay.
Because it's prior to the interview.
Yeah.
So, in behind the interview, it speaks about Prince Charles, and there's evidence around his interview.
Right,
So
okay.
if you did not know, Prince Charles, prior to Diana's interview...
In 1995?
Yeah, Prince
Right.
Charles did one a few months before,
Okay.
and he did two separate versions of them.
That is shocking.
There was one in Windsor Castle, where
Yeah.
he did it with, like, full-on confessions,
Yeah.
but they scrapped it for one that didn't have, like, as much open...
Information and
Information,
secrets. Well, he must have known that it was going to release some hard-hitting information.
And because of that, that's what caused Diana to do her interview.
See, now I never knew that.
Because she wanted, like, her own back.
Yeah, she wanted to
Or if she
back
was
up.
already thinking of doing it, then that was definitely what also pushed her forwards to do
Yeah.
it.
Yeah, that it's just...
There was a clip of it, and he's much more defensive. He pretty much says, like, oh no, like, me and Dana were fine.
Yeah.
We just kind of drifted apart, really.
Yeah, but
Um,
obviously that is not
It's not
what happened.
from Diana's perspective.
No. I mean, obviously there are two sides to every truth,
There are.
but Diana knew what was going on. And even if she did have mental health issues, she wanted to bring it to light, didn't she, really? Whereas Charles thought, oh, well, you know, I've got two versions now. We'll just use the one that doesn't say too much.
Yeah.
It's just not fair. If Diana done her interview with a full confession of everything that's been happening, and then there's one, I wonder if we ever get to watch the one that Prince Charles did, like in its
Full.
entirety.
I had a brief look, and you can't really find Prince Charles's full one.
Really?
It's like one or two brief clips.
Yeah.
The second half of Behind the Interview, I noticed it starts to tie into like Behind the Scandal, because then it's more about the interview.
Yeah.
So it's still very formal in the way it like shows the evidence though, compared to the scandal. Like the scandal starts and it's like, we have this and it's gonna blow your mind, and then
which it does.
It does what it's supposed to do.
Yeah. It does what it says on the tin. But yeah.
Behind the Interview is more like, well, we found some new evidence behind Diana's interview.
Yeah.
And here it is. But it doesn't really... It blames partly the BBC still.
Yeah.
But still, it's a lot more formal in the way it does it.
Is Behind the Scandal also Channel 4?
Yes.
Right, okay. Obviously going to be blasting BBC a little bit more then, really.
I noticed that it also has like the same footage and music in some parts, comparing the two. Like some same shots, footage, uses like, when it's circling the thing with like the bank statement.
Yeah.
Stuff like that, and the shot of some houses. And
so they've used the same kind... So they've used some of the same footage from the...
Behind the Interview.
Behind the interview.
The scandal.
Right, okay. So, one thing I have noticed when watching the 2020 documentaries, we do not see anything from Martin.
We don't. It does refer that Martin Bashir refused to speak in both versions. And it says that the BBC sent a statement saying that he was ill.
Yeah.
So he wouldn't be able to make a statement or come on camera.
And that was the very end. Remember, it said that he was ill.
However, I noticed when watching both, you might have not seen it.
Go on.
To where you watched up to. In Behind the Interview, it just says like
that he's ill.
He's ill. And in Behind the Scandal, it says the same. But afterwards, it says, but we've seen there's been like sightings of him on several occasions where he's been out and about.
So, really then, he's not that ill.
No. And that was the major thing where I noticed how formal to informal the two different versions are and how biased it is.
Well, I did some research into what happened to Martin Bashir. Apparently he was fired from the BBC and he went to work in America, but he was also fired from them, and now he's back in the UK.
He's the head of editing for Religion, isn't he?
Yes. So, is he working from home then?
Well... Again, they say that he had COVID and is recovering at the moment, but also, again, he's been seen on several occasions outside shopping.
So if he had COVID, well, he wouldn't be out shopping.
No.
I feel that then Channel 4 or even ITV now have to do a documentary on Martin Bashir.
Yes.
I think that's the next step.
To focus.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like a series of the documentaries on what happened. Like if we're going to talk about documentaries and being contemporary and opening secrets, then it's not on our documentary list, but we have to kind of talk about Louis Theroux when he was interviewing Jimmy Savile. And Jimmy Savile in that documentary was in a restaurant with Louis Theroux and he was cuddling a teenage girl. Now the thing is, he was showing the world what he was doing. And yet no one said a thing.
Yes. I mean, everything referring to Diana's side, it was all behind closed doors until recently.
Exactly.
Like, you watch the interview, without have seen those documentaries, you'd be able to tell from Diana's side that something's up, but obviously with Martin Bashir, you wouldn't. He's just the interviewer.
Yeah.
You don't know. He's the one doing the interview.
Exactly.
But there's a lot more going on behind him as well.
Yeah, so there's so much going on that we see, but we don't talk about.
Yeah.
So now these things are being exposed in new documentaries for us to watch.
Another thing I noticed is, because of the formal nature for Behind the Interview, it touches briefly upon her death. In the Scandal version, it refers to it at the end, but you don't see any footage, or there isn't a part like just dedicated to when
Yeah.
obviously the crash happened.
Yeah.
But there is a part in behind the interview where it touches on it.
Yeah.
So
I would love to be on a fly on the wall. I would hope to see a fly on the wall documentary then. Or maybe watch something with the royal family as a fly on the wall documentary. Did you know the Queen did a documentary?
I did not.
But you can't find it anywhere.
Oh, why?
It was viewed
Yeah.
way back when. And she decided it was awful. So she's taken it away.
Yeah.
And there was no evidence of that. So we will never be able to watch it. You'll never
there's-
be able
there's
to find it.
There's a version of Prince Charles's interview. You'll never be able to find it.
Exactly.
So, I noticed that obviously because of the evidence that has come to light,
Yeah.
it's a big question as to whether BBC has just committed like general forgery or whether they've committed a crime. Like, I mean, I know forgery is a crime, but it's
Like
whether
fraud.
yeah, it's like whether the company is behind Diana's death.
Yeah.
Like, had a part in playing
Yeah.
behind her death because of the forged bank documents that they admitted to.
Right. No, that's completely understandable.
But
And you can think about the fact that this is like a contemporary documentary.
yeah,
But then thinking about something like Night Mail, which is contemporary, but it's kind of historical too because it's showing the past on the post office.
yeah,
Something like this would never happen way back when.
no,
We wouldn't get this kind of documentary back then
no,
from the Night Mail.
no.
And we're finding out all these things. I don't think they'd be doing something in the 1930s about all the secrets about the post office.
I just they touch upon the law enforcement behind it and behind the interview. I noticed where it doesn't really talk about the after effects in the scandal.
Right.
So again, another example of the slight more detail they put in to behind the interview. And to me, all in all, it seems like they made a separate version on purpose so that it would be more like eye-catching, a lot more informal, that people might enjoy that more informal attitude more. And with it being so biased and suggesting a lot of blame towards the BBC and Martin Bashir.
Yeah, different kinds of target audiences then, really.
And it was only a month between.
Yeah.
They must have been there going, right, we can make a separate version of this.
We can add to this and create something more. Like, obviously, you've got Channel 4.
Yeah.
Their target audience is the working class.
Yeah, it ranges.
Yeah, and then you've got the BBC, and they primarily go for the middle class, like, you know, the rich side of the country.
Yeah.
And Channel 4 with its informalities.
Yes.
The documentary is more informal, it's more...
More suited for Channel 4.
Exactly.
I mean, it's not like the BBC are going to make a documentary blaming themselves. So.
No.
But a bold move by Channel 4 to do it.
Yeah, oh, definitely a bold move. A bold move to make a documentary based on something that was done 25 years before. So, to create something based on that amount of time prior.
And to put BBC in the limelight.
Yeah. Shocking. Definitely something to watch, though, if you're interested at all.
Definitely recommend.
Yeah.
Recommend Night Mail. Maybe not recommend the Cool School.
Don't recommend the Cool School.
Unless you're really into art, in which case you will love it.
Or Jeff Bridges, but yeah.
And obviously, definitely watch those two.
Or three.
Well, yeah, watch the interview, watch behind the interview, watch the scandal.
And then
get
you can
the full story.
Yeah, and then you can probably think about the way the BBC perceives it to the way Channel 4 perceives it.
The documentary.
Well, yeah, because the BBC obviously want to hide certain things.
I mean, they're probably up in air by now. Well, they probably still are.
Because probably the royal family favour the
they
BBC.
Probably aired, and then Channel 4 got hailed by a bunch of BBC
law-based executives. But I feel that the royal family are more BBC kind of people.
Yes, obviously.
So all these things that would have happened.
Yeah. Like, you wouldn't see the royal family coming on Channel 4.
No.
No.
But what was the Prince Andrew interview on BBC? I'm thinking that it might have been. It's something to think about. So after discussing 4 or even 5 documentaries, we've spoken about one from last year. We've spoken about one that was made in the 1930s, and the contrast between 3 of them, even though they're really about the same subject. It's been eye-opening to chat about different things, and I hope you found it informative.